On January 13, 1999, at 2:36 p.m., in a quiet neighborhood off Greenspring Avenue in Baltimore County, 17-year-old Adnan Syed, a student at Woodlawn High School, strangled 18-year-old Hae Min Lee to death in her Saturn, which was parked in a lot near the school. The brutal and shocking act would go on to captivate a nation, and later, the world, on one of the most popular podcasts of all time. This moment was the culmination of a complex web of lies, deceit, and tragedy that would unravel over time, slowly revealing the truth and leaving one question that would haunt everyone: who was responsible for Hae's death? The investigation that followed would be one of the most well-documented and widely scrutinized in American history, and the podcast that covered it, Serial, would bring it to the forefront once again. This story would change the face of true crime storytelling forever. Imagine walking through the quiet neighborhood where it happened, the same spot where the gruesome discovery was made. The trees stand tall, their branches swaying gently in the breeze, but their beauty is marred by the memory of that fateful day. A mix of emotions lingers in the air as you stand at the spot where Hae's body was found, her life cut short in the blink of an eye. The parking lot is now empty, but the memories of that day still linger. The once tranquil atmosphere is now a mix of sadness and intrigue, a somber reminder of the events that transpired. Adnan Syed, a seemingly normal high school student, was accused of Hae's murder, an accusation that would change the course of his life forever. His defense team argued that he was innocent, that he had been set up by his ex-girlfriend, Jay Wilds, who would later become a central figure in the investigation. But was it just a case of mistaken identity, or was there something more sinister at play? As the investigation unfolded, it became clear that nothing was as it seemed, and the lines between truth and deception began to blur. The world was about to take a closer look at the intricacies of this case. Witnesses nearby reported hearing nothing out of the ordinary that day, but a few claimed to have seen a black car fleeing the scene. No one seemed to notice anything unusual until hours later, when Hae's body was discovered. Some claimed to have heard a noise, a faint scuffle or a car door slamming shut, but no one reported seeing anything that would lead the police to Adnan Syed at the time. But as the investigation progressed, it became clear that these witnesses played a crucial role in unraveling the mystery. They would later testify in court, their testimonies helping to piece together the events of that fateful day. The puzzle was starting to come together, and the truth was about to be exposed. Before we go further, hit subscribe and the bell notification. We post new cases every single day, so be sure to check back often. We love engaging with our community and hearing from you, so leave a comment below and let us know what you think. Let me take you back to the very beginning of this story, a case that would captivate the nation and spark a renewed interest in true crime storytelling. It all started with the murder of Hae Min Lee, an 18-year-old high school student who was brutally strangled in her Saturn sedan. The investigation that followed was complex, with twists and turns that would keep detectives and true crime enthusiasts alike on the edge of their seats. This case, like many others, raised questions about the justice system, and whether we can truly trust the system to uncover the truth. As we delve into the world of Serial, you'll hear the story of Adnan Syed, the accused, and the detectives who worked tirelessly to unravel the mystery. In this case, the backstory is one of deception and betrayal. Adnan Syed and Hae Min Lee, two students at Woodlawn High School, had a complicated relationship. They started dating, but their relationship ended in a heated argument, with Adnan allegedly getting angry and threatening Hae. Jay Wilds, Adnan's friend and alleged accomplice, would later testify that Adnan confided in him about his plans to kill Hae. But was Jay telling the truth, or was he part of a larger scheme to frame Adnan for the crime? As we dive deeper into the case, you'll hear the testimonies of key witnesses, including Jay, and unravel the web of lies that led to Hae's murder. This is a story of love, betrayal, and the complexities of the human psyche. Hae Min Lee, an 18-year-old student at Woodlawn High School in Baltimore County, was the central person in this case. Born on April 4, 1980, She lived in a loving family with her parents, Yoon and Myung Lee, and her older brother Young Lee. Hae Min was an honor roll student who loved her job at the Woodlawn Mall's food court. She was well liked by her peers and her parents were supportive of her. She had a promising future ahead of her. Hae Min's daily life was quite ordinary, attending school, working at the mall, and spending time with her family and friends. She loved fashion and music, and her favorite bands were Destiny's Child and NSYNC. She had a close-knit group of friends who shared similar interests, and they often hung out together after school. Hae Min was also a bit of a neat freak and loved organizing and decorating her room. Her parents were proud of her and encouraged her to pursue her dreams. Hae Min's relatable qualities made her easy to sympathize with. She was a teenager who loved her life, her friends, and her family, and she had a promising future ahead of her. Her passion and enthusiasm were contagious, and those who knew her couldn't help but like her. She was also a bit quirky, with a unique sense of style and a love for old-school music. This made her even more endearing to those who knew her. Hae Min's relationships were also a key part of her life. She trusted her family and friends implicitly, and they trusted her just as much in return. She was particularly close to her friend Adnan Syed, who she had met at school. The two of them had been friends for a while, but their relationship had recently taken on a romantic tone. As their relationship deepened, they began to rely on each other more and more. As the school year drew to a close in 1999, Hae Min's life began to change in ways she couldn't have imagined. She and her friends were excited to start the summer vacation, but Hae Min's relationship with Adnan was causing tension. They were both seniors, and their friends and family were starting to notice the changes in their behavior. Hae Min's parents, who had always been supportive of her relationships, were beginning to worry about the impact of her friendship with Adnan on her grades and her future. As the days went by, friends and family began to notice subtle changes in Hae Min's behavior. She seemed distant and withdrawn, and her grades were starting to slip. Her friends tried to reach out to her, but she pushed them away, saying she was fine. Meanwhile, Adnan was becoming increasingly controlling and possessive in their relationship. He would show up at her school and demand to know where she was, and he would become angry if she didn't answer his calls right away. Hae Min's friends and family tried to reach out to her, but she was becoming increasingly isolated. Her parents were worried about their daughter's behavior, but they didn't know what to do. Meanwhile, Adnan was becoming more and more aggressive in his behavior, and his friends and family were starting to notice. But would anyone be able to intervene in time to prevent a tragedy? The weeks leading up to the incident were marked by a growing sense of unease and tension in Hae Min's life. Her friends and family were trying to reach out to her, but she was becoming increasingly withdrawn. Meanwhile, Adnan's behavior was becoming more and more erratic, and his friends and family were starting to worry about their friend. But what happened on that fateful day in January 1999 would change everything forever. As the days went by, Hae Min's friends and family noticed that something was wrong. She was gone, but no one knew where or why. Her parents were frantic with worry, and her friends were devastated by her disappearance. The police were called, and a search party was formed to look for Hae Min. But as the search continued, a shocking revelation would change everything. It was a chilly winter day, January 13, 1999, in Baltimore County, Maryland, with a low of 22 degrees Fahrenheit and a high of 35 degrees. The sun had barely risen, casting a pale light over the landscape. The students of Woodlawn High School were heading to their first day of classes after the winter break. Hae Min Lee, an 18-year-old student, was walking to school, unaware of the events that would unfold. Her friends and classmates would later recall seeing her that morning, smiling and in high spirits. The day began like any other for Hae Min Lee, but little did she know that her life was about to take a drastic turn. She had a busy schedule ahead of her, with classes, friends, and a boyfriend, Adnan Masood Syed, with whom she had been struggling to maintain a relationship. The previous day, Adnan had asked Hae Min to break up with him, but she had refused, stating that she needed time to think. This tension between the couple was a known fact among their friends and family. Hae Min's friends had noticed a change in her behavior, but they had no idea that her relationship with Adnan was on the verge of becoming a deadly one. The sequence of events leading up to Hae Min's disappearance began with her leaving school in the afternoon. Some friends claimed to have seen her talking to Adnan near the school's parking lot. Another friend reported that Hae Min had been receiving strange phone calls and text messages from an unknown number. As the day went on, Hae Min's whereabouts became unknown, and her friends grew worried. By 3 p.m., it was clear that something was amiss, and a search for Hae Min began. The discovery of Hae Min's body in Leakin Park on February 9, 1999, would send shockwaves through the community. A passerby stumbled upon her lifeless body, and a friend identified her 2 days later. The autopsy report would later confirm that Hae Min had been murdered, brutally stabbed multiple times in the neck and face. The fact that Hae Min's body was found in a wooded area, far from her home and school, would raise questions about the motives behind her murder. The gruesome nature of the crime would haunt the community for years to come. The case of Hae Min Lee's murder began unfolding on February 9, 1999, when her corpse was discovered in Leakin Park. Baltimore County Police were called to the scene and quickly began investigating, but their initial response was hampered by a lack of leads. Detectives collected evidence from the crime scene, but it was far from concrete. They interviewed local residents and tried to piece together any potential surveillance footage. However, the park's isolated location made it difficult to pinpoint suspects. The police were left with more questions than answers. However, on February 12, a crucial anonymous tip came in, suggesting that 17-year-old Adnan Masood Syed, Lee's ex-boyfriend, might be linked to the crime. This piece of information would prove to be a significant turning point in the investigation, altering the course of the inquiry. Detectives immediately began looking into Syed's alibi and background, searching for any evidence that might link him to the murder. As they dug deeper, they discovered a seemingly incriminating phone call between Adnan and Jay Wilds, his friend and classmate, that took place on the day of the murder. This conversation, often referred to as the Jay Walk, would become a pivotal piece of evidence in the case. The police investigation led them to initially focus on two main suspects, Adnan Masood Syed and Jay Wilds. Adnan, Lee's ex-boyfriend, had a history with her and had ended their relationship just months prior. His friends and family members reported that Adnan seemed shaken by the news of Lee's murder. Meanwhile, Jay Wilds, Adnan's friend and accomplice, initially provided the police with a false alibi, claiming that they spent the day of the murder together. However, Wilds eventually recanted his statement, confessing to police that he had lied and was present at the crime scene. The investigation then shifted its attention to Adnan's involvement. Despite the police's best efforts, the investigation stumbled upon a red herring in the form of another suspect, Hae Min Lee's classmate, Donay Gray, who was initially suspected of being a potential accomplice to Adnan. This lead wasted months of the investigation's time, as detectives pored over Gray's alibi and searched for any potential connections to the crime. Gray's involvement was ultimately deemed unfounded, leaving many to question the quality of the investigation. In hindsight, it's clear that time was squandered on this lead, which diverted attention away from the true suspect. The prolonged investigation, plagued by inconsistencies, eventually led the police to rely on shaky evidence and dubious testimony. The twist or revelation nobody predicted was when Adnan Syed's lawyer,